Dear friends, today we discuss on an important topic. The topic name is letter writing. This question will ask for 5 marks in your 10th examination paper. Now, dear friend, there are two types of letter writing. One is formal letter and second is informal letter. This question is very easy to write. Let's discuss about what is meant by letter. First of all, letter means it is a written communication between two person or two parties without watching each other. We call it as a letter. Dear friends, so what is meant by the formal letter? A definition of formal letter is when we write a letter to the only official purpose or our office purpose, we call it as a formal letter. And what is meant by the informal letter? Informal letter is write to the for the purpose of private purpose, like we write a letter to our friends, like we write a letter to our brother, sister, father, mother, we call it as a informal letter. But instead of informal letter, formal letter is write only to the official, like school, like colleges, like any office, like authorities, we call it as a formal letter. So what is the rules? What are the different rules of writing formal letter? Let's we discuss today one of the best topic in formal letter. We call it as a application letter. Whenever it is very important letter in our board examination of 10th class student, because there are 5 or 6 rules in that letter writing. Look at the chart, look at the board, how we discuss on an application letter. Today we discuss on an application letter. There are how many rules? Just we count: first, second, third, fourth, 5, 6 and 7. In application letter there are 7 rules. So how we start the application letter? In your answer sheet there are 7 main important points, we call it as a rules. Now look at the first rules of application letter. Dear friends, it is a very rules. We call it as a writer's address. We call it as a writer's address. A first rules of application letter is writer's address. We must be right into the left corner of your answer sheet. Listen carefully, dear friends. We must be right writer's address left side of your answer sheet. You must be fill everything in that address, like name, like address, like pin code, like village name. Look at the board. For example, I write here writer's address, name of the applicant, we call it as a name of the writer, Sanvi Khanapure. We should be put here comma, and below the Sanvi Khanapure you should be write the address of a writer. It is a Sai Niwas, comma, write down below. It is a destination of the writer. We call it as a village of the writer, Lapur. Put here dash. Write here pin code of the village and left one line below the address and write date as like this one, 9 March, comma 2019, full stop. We call it as the first rules of application letter. It is a write into the left side of your answer sheet below the question, below the questions. Okay, now you should be left here one line after the writer's address. Second rule of application letter is we call it as the receiver's address. It is a new form of letter writing which is asked for the 5 mark in your final examination, and it is a new format. Okay, it is a second rules of letter writing. We call it as the address of addressee. Another name, address of addressee and a receiver's address. Who is a receiver? For example, it may be a headmaster. For example, it may be a principal. For example, it may be a someone authority of any companies, any thing. Okay, you should be write by the left one line below the writer's address. It is a second rule of application letter. We call it the address of addressee. How we write address of addressee? You should put here 2 and put comma the headmaster. It may be headmaster and it may be a headmistress, and put comma after the headmaster and write down the school name. For example, I write here Rajeshri High School, comma Tuppa, comma Taluka and district Nanded, full stop. It is the address of addressee or receiver's address. It should be right below the writer's address by left one line. It is the second rule of application letter. Dear friends, what is the third rule of application letter? The third rule of application letter is you should be write a reference. What do you mean by the reference? Dear friends, how you know, how you get a vacancy in that school? So that you read a newspaper, it is a reference. Someone tell you, it is a reference. But we cannot be mentioned someone tell me. So that you should be write a reference of your newspaper. So how we write? By left one line below the address of addressee, you should be write a reference. The reference means, how we write a reference? By left one line below the receiver's address. Reference, your advertisement published. It means a publisher, a school headmaster publish a advertisement into the newspaper for the purpose of vacancy, for the purpose of know to the candidate. So you read the newspaper. We call it as your advertisement published in daily newspaper on dated. You should be date, mention your date. But when you mention the date, the date must be before of writing the letter. As like here is 9 March 2019, but you should here mention 1 March 2019. Between 9 and 1, you have a 7 days time. You have a 7 days time to decide to apply or not to apply. Okay. The third rule is subject. After the reference, you should be left one line and write below the reference subject of the application letter. Subject means you know about the subject. What is the purpose behind of you writing the letter? Subject. Now you should be writing into the subject an application for the post of dash dash. An application for the post of dash dash. It may be English, it may be math, it may be other subject. Okay. You should write here an application for the post of English teacher, full stop. And after the subject, you should be write, we call it as a salutation. We call it as a salutation. Salutation is right below the subject, respected sir. It is one kind of salutation. It may be a informal letter, my dear friends, my dear father, my dear mother. But in formal letter, you should be write as like this one, respected sir, comma, you must be left this line when you write a respected sir as a blank. Okay, left this line and write down below a letter body. What do you mean by the letter body? Dear friends, I just only write here respected sir and some lines are blank. We call it as a letter body. Letter bodies should be right into 2 paragraphs by giving your information, by giving your qualities, by giving your biodatas. Okay, as like how we start a letter body. You should write here by the using of reference, as per above subject, as per above reference. I am very happy to, I am very glad to write this letter for the purpose of joining as an English teacher in your school. In this way you can also start. You may also use different words as your knowledge. My dear friends, you should start letter body like this one. Into the letter body you should be write 2 paragraphs by showing your information. I have completed my degree, I had completed my PG, I have enough knowledge about English subject. In this way you can also mention in that letter body. It is a rules of application letter. After the writing letter body, then you just only close your letter. We call it as a complimentary close by showing your gratitudes, and after that you put there thank you after your letter. Now last point, we call it as a your faithfully, yours faithfully. You should write here yours faithfully, and after that write your name, which is mention your question, like Sanvi Khanapure. You should put here Sanvi Khanapure. Okay, dear friends, I just will try to tell you how we write a formal letter. If you understand this letter, please like and subscribe my channel, only for the purpose of getting you new videos. Okay, thank you.